Hey everyone, welcome to the episode of That's All Funny. My guest today is a pixel artist, composer, and indie game developer, currently developing by himself the Edge of Allegoria, a turn-based RPG inspired by Game Boy classics like you played as a kid, but now for adults. It's Joe. How you doing? It's Average Joe. Joe, how you
I'm
doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Not too bad. Just another
Right
day,
on.
just
Hey.
just making it. No, again, thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
No, first off, I want to show the trailer here for this game because this game's great. I have played the demo. Everyone should wishlist it on Steam. Try it out. I'll put the link in the description. But we'll check out the demo here for your game, as far as the trailer. So one moment. Yeah, so I'm getting real red and blue vibes,
Oh yeah.
old
Oh
Pokemon
yeah.
vibes, definitely. Um, so you're the game studio, right? You're the only one developing this game.
Yep, it's just me. I don't play well with others. So I had to go it alone. There was actually another game that I was working on before this one with a guy I used to work at or work with at my old job. But we ended up parting ways. Creative differences. Well, no, we were kind of on the same page. It was more like we had different directions that we were wanting to go. So I was like, "Well, shit, I don't have a writer anymore. I guess I need to do something myself." And I had like no confidence in my writing abilities, so I was like, "I'm just gonna throw whatever at the wall and see what sticks." And apparently people like bad words. So
That is always fun, isn't it? Just saying a bad word in any language too. Uh,
exactly.
so, like, did you go to school to develop games, or where did this kind of spawn from? Your like creativity or wanting to really get into this?
Well, getting into making games was something I've always wanted to do, like ever since I was a kid. Back when I was like 5 or 6 or something like that. Maybe a little younger. I don't actually remember. It's so long ago. My dad actually was going to college for programming, not game development, just like learning programming back in
Mhm.
the 90s. And I was like, "Hey, you know how to program. You can make computer games." So we sat down and he tried to teach me, and I was a kid, so I had no patience to learn anything. I just wanted it to work. But we tried to make a snakes and ladders game using like Visual Basic or something like that, like way, way, way back in the day. And that kind of just like planted the seed, and then years and years later, I got into, I watched a lot of you remember those, like, old Flash videos? Like, on, like, Newgrounds or E-Bombs World or whatever, it's like the stick figure kung fu
Uh-huh.
fighting and stuff
Yeah,
like
the
that?
the stick figure assassins or something that
Yeah,
would just
yeah.
kill everyone. Yeah.
So I got really into those, like, when my family finally got the internet, I got, like, super hooked on that and wanted to get into that animation, but we didn't have Flash, but we did have PowerPoint. So, and I knew how to, like I knew how to do PowerPoint presentations in school, and I learned how to do, like, the transitions and the animations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I figured out how to do timelines, and I would copy and paste stick figures that I would like make with the circles and the lines, and I could make these stick figures and copy and paste them on a single slide, and then go into the timeline editor, edit animations. So sorry, I'm going to go on a big rant here because it's kind
No,
of a
no,
long story.
definitely.
but I got into doing animations that way and was like, this is really tedious to do because it's like when you get to the end of doing something, it's just a blob of color on the screen because it all just kind of overlaps over everything. So I wanted to get into animation and try to find some sort of animation software, but I wanted something free and didn't have Flash. And I never actually looked into I don't know if Flash was free or if you could get a free version or a cracked version or whatever, I don't know. But I ended up finding Game Maker. That was kind of the like, I
Mm,
found Game Maker back when I was, like, 14, 15 or something like that.
mhm.
And I also figured, pixel art is an easier quote unquote way to do, art.
It
Uh,
was the only way back when, right?
well,
That
yeah, and, it kind of that kind of sparked it. It was like learning how to do animation was kind of what kind of got it going, and then there was, like, the memories of, being a kid with my dad, trying to get him to teach me how to do it, and it all kinda came together when I found Game Maker, and I started just making games as a hobby, um, and, like, I stopped here and there. I got really into making music. I played guitar, I had a band, I did all that stuff, but, like, games were always, like I'd always come back to them every once in a while, and I'd make a little platformer over the weekend or try to, excuse me, do something interesting with it. Um, and that was it's just kind of been an ongoing hobby for me for all these years. And
Mhm,
then, it was during the pandemic, 2021, when I started working on the previous game with the guy that I used to work with. And that was kind of like I decided like I'm going to actually make a game and actually finish it. Because up until that point, it's always been like prototypes and trying stuff out and all that, and then
mhm.
just discarding it and throwing it away. Um, and I was like, "I'm committed, I'm gonna make a game and I'm gonna finish it," and then that game just fell apart, and I had no choice but to throw it away, so I was like, "Okay, I'm doing this on my own, I'm gonna take everything that I've learned from all of my practicing and YouTube tutorial watching and everything over the past, 15 some odd years, and I'm gonna actually apply it and do something that I enjoy and make a game that I wanna play," and that's kind of the that's the reason why the game is the way it is and what it is because it's something that I want to play. Like, I'm more
Mhm.
excited, I think, than anyone else to play this game when it's done because it's something that I wanted. But I taught myself everything. I haven't gone to school for that. My old day job was I did a lot of it wasn't exactly programming, but it used a lot of, like, programming logic, so that kinda helped to, um, teach myself like, how to chain things and nest statements and get it all organized so that when you push one button, something else happens, and that's kind of formed a
Yeah.
foundation for me.
Mhm.
Um, but, yeah, other than just learning as I go, that's kind of I don't really have any other kind of formal education to this whole thing.
And, you do well, you've written the story to it, and you do the music for it, so it's everything, so
Everything, yeah. The
no,
only thing
that's
that wasn't
uh-huh,
me was, the Steam, like, the capsule art. I've got a very, very talented, I he changed his name recently. I think it's Michael Mons. He usually does, like, Digimon, commissions,
mhm.
or Digimon style, commissions, and I was like, "Hey, man, can you do this? Like, you do really awesome stuff. Can you please do my cover art for me?" And he was totally down for it. And yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. But other than that, everything else is that's all me. Yeah.
No, that's amazing to, like, turn a hobby into, that drive to wanna, I'm going to finish something, and then, like you said, with your other, task or your other project, I'm gonna finish this, and you ended up not, but
Yeah.
it takes you to even if that hadn't finished or that had fallen apart, you wouldn't maybe not have had this project, so
Well, that's yeah, that's true. It's kind of spawned from like, that project fell apart, and I kinda wanted to just do, like, pixel art and, maybe do a little bit of music for, like, the Instagram or YouTube shorts or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, have the art and then have some music going in the background, so I'll make some sort of, like, elevator music to just
The
generic
the
something or other.
ASMR or the
Yeah.
lo-fi. Yeah,
Yeah, and then just put it on top of some art that I did, and
yeah.
I tried to get into that, but there was one day that I 'cause I there's something I really enjoy about just, uh, setting limitations on yourself.
Mhm,
Just arbitrarily imposed limitations. I feel like it breeds creativity. It forces you to kind of think outside the box. And that was just an exercise that I did one day was I found a color palette that was green like the Game Boy. And I was like, I'm gonna do a Pokemon scene, but I'm gonna make it like a monster. It's gonna look like a Pokemon battle, but it's gonna be like a goblin or something like that, and then there's gonna
mhm.
be some text at the bottom. It's like, "Oh shit, there's a goblin. I'm gonna get fucked up," or something like that. And at the time, I had a pretty small I was I had a very s I was just starting my Instagram account, and I got, like, twice as many. It was like 12 or something likes on it, and was like, "This is it. This is what I'm going to do." I And if, like, those whoever those 12 people were that liked that post when I first put it up are the reason why this is happening
Yeah.
today.
They
'Cause
really
I was like,
ignited
That's it. People
lit
love
that
me."
fire under you. No, and, that's great. No, it's always good to, I don't know, feel that passion for something that,
Yeah.
especially you want, like you said, you create that you wanna play, it's not just something you
Mhm.
think, "Oh, it'll sell, it's, Metroidvania," or it's, something
Yeah.
everybody's playing,
Well, that's
Uh
kind of the way that I look at, like, a lot of games are very there's a lot of cookie cutter games and asset flip games out there, a lot of games that are trying to be something else, and I know I'm one to talk because mine looks exactly like Pokemon, so I should keep my mouth shut, um, but I've made enough it is legally distinct. I know that term has been
Mhm.
getting thrown around with Pokemon clones. It is very legally distinct. But it's something that I've always wanted to do, and I feel like making art just in general, because I believe that video games are an art form, especially indie games.
Mhm.
Um, Making art for you as the creator is the best way. It's not don't worry about what other people are gonna think. As long as you're the one who likes it,
Mhm.
then it's good. You only the creator can decide, really, if art is good.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. And what, came first with the game idea? Was it the idea, the gameplay, the story, the music? Like, what came first, and then slowly, like, you built onto that, and then that, and then that?
Well, I originally had and this is actually it's really ironic. I originally wanted to make a farming simulator,
Those are
which
fun.
is they're so much fun,
They're
and they're
fun.
extremely popular. I
Uh-huh.
remember that there was, like, last year at a Nintendo Direct or something, it was like every other game was a farming simulator. I was
It's
like,
so
"Oh, thank
weird.
god I dodged that and didn't do that."
It's so weird
Um,
because I'll play, like, Stardew Valley, and I didn't get into it, but another farming simulator that was just like it, I got into it for whatever reason. It was the same
it's like a
concept, you
Yeah,
know?
it's like a different flavor, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like everybody likes if you want the Coca-Cola of farming simulators, you get the, uh,
Stardew
Stardew
Valley.
Valleys and things like that. But, some people like Pepsi.
Yeah. No, it's exactly And so you were gonna make a farming simulator, and
Yeah.
you, were like, "Nah, never mind."
I was gonna I wanted to do a farming simulator but have it I still wanted to have kind of the attitude and the edge that the Edge of Allegoria has.
Mhm,
Um, but I think it was when I did that art for the Pokemon battle where I was like, "No, you know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this RPG. It's gonna be like Pokemon, but you're not gonna catch anything. You're just gonna be battling everything yourself." Because I was also Well, it wasn't exactly at the time that, Elden Ring came out, but Elden Ring contributed to that, like, solidified my, "No, you are the adventurer, and you are the only thing going on this adventure.
Mhm.
You're not bringing anybody along with you," kinda thing. Um, so, yeah, it was definitely, like, the farming sim was what started it, and then it was that Instagram post that kind of made me decide, like, this is the kind of game that I wanna make, and then it just kinda built from there.
No, that's awesome. The it's always good to like you said, "Oh, shoot, this is the better pivot at the moment," you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, looking like, hindsight's 2020, and looking back, I'm real glad that I chose not to do a farming simulator because I think last year was the year of farming sims, and next year this end of this year, next year will be something entirely different. And
Mhm.
I think that, like, when there's a run of games that are too similar, there's a fatigue that kind of sets in, and people kind of get
Definitely.
bored or disinterested in that particular genre. It'll come
Mhm.
back eventually,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of glad that because I would be right at the tail end of that, and nobody would want to play another farming simulator at that point. So I dodged a bullet.
Yeah, you don't wanna be the ET of
Yeah, no.
the Atari there and
Yeah, no,
oversaturate the market.
exactly.
Uh, no, I'd played your demo, really loved it. I backed your game on, Kickstarter.
Yes,
That
thank
that
you, I
was
appreciate that.
no, yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. It was successfully funded, so congratulations on
Thank you.
that. Um, how's it feel like that to not only meet your campaign but exceed it, and then knowing there's this like hype for your game and the community that's hyping it behind it, you know?
Oh, man, that Kickstarter, I'm having, like, PTSD flashbacks from that month because it was so stressful. I was watching those numbers every day, and, like, it was so close. Like, there was a point where I was like, I'm not gonna make it. There's no way. It's just not happening." And then it was like the community, like, I have to, like, shout out to my Discord community, like, everybody in there is so fantastic. And you backed the game as well, so you're included in that.
Oh, I loved it.
All the
No problem.
backers and, like, just the whole community surrounding the game, really rallied right at the end and kinda gave me that push. It was almost like everybody stepped aside, like, "Alright, get out of the way, man. We're stepping in now. We're gonna help you get there." We did. We made it, and we've got, it was 125% funded. We hit the first stretch goal, so there's gonna be a hardcore mode. Um, and yeah, it was just like it totally blew me away when that I got that email that said it was funded, and like, it was like it just, like, occurred to me, like, it's this is happening. This is a real thing that's
No, it's amazing.
it's awesome. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
No, I can't even imagine it, and, and I'd say, even yeah, you got that, and it's a relief, but post-campaign now, do you feel any sort of relief or just as much stress or a
Oh, it's
little
getting tight again. It was real good for the first couple months after. It was like, all right, we're making progress. This is fantastic." But, we live in late stage capitalism.
Mhm,
The
mhm.
society is about to collapse, and everything's way too expensive. And then it was like, okay, might have been a little loosey goosey with things. 'Cause the first thing I did was I got a Steam Deck because I needed something to test the handheld.
Mhm,
And, like, as soon as I got that, I got cloud saving set up. I started doing the Steam Deck testing to make sure that it works, it's functional. Um, I've got all the achievements, like, I went full into getting the game, like, more of a
optimized?
game
Uh-huh,
kinda thing, and being able to play test when I'm not sitting at my desk. I can, like, sit on the couch and put a movie on and play on the Steam Deck. It's fantastic. Um, so but then I watched the bank account slowly. It's like, "Okay, alright." I still have to, like, I've got, player's guides, that I'm gonna be making, like, physical player's guides that I'm gonna be, mailing out. I've got some bead art that I'm going to be doing for a couple people. I don't have anything handy at the
Oh.
moment, um, but like here I've got one. I've got myself. I don't know if you can if it blurs
Oh.
it out.
Yeah,
Um,
like the hot beads?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember those.
So everybody that gets the physical player's guide, it also comes with an NPC character,
Mhm.
and everybody's going to get their NPC character as a bead thing, a melty bead thing, in with their player's guide as well. So I got to do a bunch of those. I got to do got to get the player's guides, done and printed and mailed out and all of that stuff. So it's like watching my budget now and making sure that it's like really, like really organized, so that it's
Uh-huh.
not like I'm not just gonna get to the end and be like, shit, I have to make a bunch of stuff and send it out. Because it was originally like the Kickstarter. I got laid off from my day job last spring, and was relying on savings and stuff throughout the year until the Kickstarter. It was like everything was running out, and then the Kickstarter happened, and I was like, I can finally, like, if the Kickstarter is successful, then I can continue working on it full time and get to the end and be done and release it and don't have to worry about getting another full time job. But bills, man, they are ridiculous, and I've got
Mhm.
4 kids, so
Oh, geez.
it's it's the world we live in, so,
Yeah.
um
No, responsibilities, I
yeah.
completely understand.
But the game is like that time that I was able to completely focus 100% full time and just like head down, get into the programming, like thanks to everyone that backed on Kickstarter. The game is like this close to being done. It's like super, super finished. There's just like I'm adding Kickstarter backer rewards at the moment. And I've got about 75% of all of those added in. And there's a few people I'm just waiting to hear back from. They're like super easy things. So it'll be like just checking things off the list. Couple big things that still need to get done. For anyone who's watching, you know who you are. we,
That's
we
exciting, though.
we will talk. So yeah, it's like it's getting to a very close to being done point. And there will be from a backing from a certain tier and higher, allows certain backers to get early access to that finished version.
Mhm.
It'll be like early access, but I'm not doing early access through Steam. It's the
Sending it out.
backers will get, yeah, they'll get it with all the bugs and fun stuff. It'll be feature complete, content complete, or whatever the
Uh-huh.
term is. It'll be content complete, but will likely have a few minor hiccups along the way. Although it is pretty stable, if I do say so myself. For a self-taught programmer, I ain't half bad. Um,
Those are always pretty fun, though, those, not 1.0 version games, the one right
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, exactly. And that I'm kinda hoping to use it as a sort of play testing feedback thing as well, if there's anything that needs to be changed, or like there's only so much testing I can do before I start pulling my brains out. Like I remember doing, like, when I first released the demo on Steam, like the couple months leading up to that was like I played that demo so many times that anytime I have to start a new game, I'm like, dear God, can I go any faster? Because it's just it's been like 300 times at least that I've played through that, and as much as I need to as much as I need to market this game and sell this game, like, it's a lot of fun, I swear. After the 300th time, it starts to get a little repetitive.
Yeah, after, making sure every, turn is fine, every,
Yeah, yeah.
button press is good.
It's
I'd
gotta be like,
imagine it.
and there's so many different possibilities too, because there's all these different weapons you can collect and different combos that you can pull off with the attacks and everything like that. So there's so many different variables to test that,
Mhm,
like, you have no choice. You have to, like, try every different
mhm.
possible way. And I'm just one guy, so being able to get early access copies out to Kickstarter backers and hopefully get some feedback. I mean, it's not mandatory by any means, but um, any feedback is appreciated. More any more people to test it than just me would be an enormous help. And my Discord community has been a huge help. Helped with the demo. I've got a couple people that have played a little farther than the demo. Um, some particularly helpful people. I've said thank you and allowed them to take a little sneak peek a little further on. Um, and then there will be a few more coming very soon that will be able to actually play the whole game before everybody else. It's gonna be
No,
cool.
yeah, that feedback's very valuable, and it's great
Mhm.
too to, like you said, involve the community, and then somebody out there is gonna find a variable that you never could
Oh
even
yeah.
think of doing, and like, oh my god, like I would have
Yeah.
never thought
Oh
of
yeah.
doing that with that.
Well, that was, like, when I released the demo first, like, I had an alpha version that people could download on the Discord, and they could play it, try it out. I started with just literally just walking around. There was no like, I didn't have battles, I didn't have a shop, I didn't have an inventory, anything like that. Like, it literally just started as walking around, and even and at that early point, like, there were a few people that jumped on that and wanted to try it out, and they found stuff right away that I just wasn't aware of, because I'm not I know where everything is, so I'm going through the standard path, and I'm
Mhm.
not running into random walls and trying to break through the geometry and get into everything. But there are people out there that do that,
Oh
and
yeah,
they
oh
were
yeah.
able to go into what they called the upside down, um, because there's on every room, every map in the game, there's a void outside of it, and they'll go and wander in the void, and you could get around to the other side, and if you looped around, you could get into the next part of the map that you weren't supposed to, so there were a few people that were escaping into
Oh
the
wow.
unknown parts of the game. I had to reel that in real quick. Um but, like, just, like, each iteration of the demo, people were finding more stuff, and then they'd offer suggestions for quality of life things, and it's been a like, as much as I'd like to say I'm a solo developer, and I do all of the work myself, it's the community's game now at this point. As much as it's mine,
Mhm.
it's everybody that has played the game. It's like I'm building this game for everyone now, not just for me.
No, that's the gaming kind of community as a whole, or the gaming industry. You know, like as far as like right now for gaming, like in the indie space, how do you feel about like the community as a whole in gaming? Like, are gamers jaded with current like fancy graphics, open worlds, or just wanting to hate things? And then the gaming industries, are they kind of like these big budget merging companies, closing studios? How do you feel about like stuff like that? And then being an indie developer, do you feel hopeless? Do you feel hope? Do you feel how do you feel?
I think, like, as a quote unquote solo developer, I think I'm in a unique position. Like just like hearing about all the layoffs, because I'm a solo developer, I'm in the unique position that I cannot be laid off from my development job because I'm the only person.
Hmm.
So that like I'm grateful that as an indie, particularly a solo developer, that I have that kind of I guess it's a luxury. I mean, I know it's a lot more work for just me, but um it I don't
Hmm.
have to worry about a studio closure because my studio I'm just in a room in my basement. Like, that's not like I don't have a studio to close. Um so there's that. And I think that I think the indie space in particular is the most resilient of the entire gaming industry. Like indies are never going to go away. Indies there will always be some guy in his basement, just like me, who wants to make video games and is gonna just do it. Like, I know if, like, I would be doing this anyways like, if I wasn't committed to making this big, my first commercial game, I'd still be making games as a hobby. It's just
Mhm,
something I love doing. And that's just what the indie space is kind of built on, is just people that love games and love making games and sharing the games with the world. So I think that despite everything that's going on, a lot of big studios having layoffs, a lot of smaller studios, even indie studios, having layoffs. Um, it
mhm,
it's not gonna go away. I don't think I think indies are gonna be what's gonna get everybody through this. I feel like now that there's been, like, so many studios closing, and there's something I saw recently about, like, non-compete clauses. You can't have those anymore. It's gonna open up the doors for a whole bunch of new indies to emerge. People that, like, used to work for AAA studios or something are gonna, like, go off on their own and start doing their own thing, and I think we're gonna see a lot of, like, I know we see a lot of innovation in the indie scene already, but I think, like, we are in for a tidal
mhm.
wave of just fresh ideas coming into 2025 and beyond. Like, next year is gonna be insane for indie games. Like, we're already kinda seeing the indie scene just chugging along with, like, lots of cool stuff. Like, obviously, Edge of Allegoria is pretty fantastic, but there's other games like,
Definitely.
Lucid is one that I definitely, have my eye on right now. Matt Black Studio, for everybody watching, shout out to Eric. Um, I backed that game on Kickstarter, like, the second that it launched, because that game is super fantastic. Um, and, like, there was Spilled was another one that had a Kickstarter happening, like, right around the same time as mine. It's like a boat, and you're cleaning up oil on water. That one's
Yeah.
super fantastic. There's another
Yeah,
one, Oyster Wars, I
I
saw.
backed
It's,
that
like,
one.
based on
She's great.
Celeste. There's lots of, like, the indie scene is just fantastic. It's just, like, a bunch of awesome people and a bunch of awesome ideas. So I really think that regardless of what's happening in the industry as a whole, um, the indies are gonna be what comes out of it on top, because you can't crush the indie spirit. W we just make games, and that's all we wanna do. So no one can stop us.
No, it's definitely like you're saying how everyone's sort of appreciating the indies more. It's almost like music and art because game creating is an art form.
Mhm.
So everyone's, everyone's liking when artist puts out their own music
Yeah,
or
exactly, yeah.
has creative control or is able to do it on their own. It's the same with gaming too. That you have your complete control. You're making a game for your instance for sure that you want to play yourself, and I feel 110% better.
Mhm. Yeah, and, like, having
Definitely.
that creative control over it, and not being, like, beholden to shareholders, and not having to meet some kind of profit deadline or whatever. I don't even think about the business side of things. It's just like, I just wanna make a game that's fun, and I think most indies are like that, and taking that stuff out of it, it's like, "Is this marketable? Who cares? Is it fun? Yes. Then fucking make it, man." I should have checked before we started. I apologize. I should have checked before we started if I'm allowed to swear on this show. I it's just
Oh
you knew
yeah.
what you were
Oh
getting
yeah. No
into when you
worries.
when you got me on.
Yeah, your trailer had a lot of like little cuss words there. No, I knew I was getting into. No worries. How do you feel about the use of AI being used in video games? And I don't mean like AI as term of AI is already in video games being used, but
Yeah.
I know you know the coding aspect of it. How do you feel about it sort of being used as a tool or a shortcut or something like that?
I I'm of two minds with this, I think, because AI can be very useful. And like I know I've used it. I haven't used anything like that's I haven't copy and pasted anything from ChatGPT into the game, but I've definitely been stuck on something and had like I needed to figure something out. Or run some kind of simulation or be like, I need to find out how many permutations there are. I'll go into ChatGPT and just be like, I have this number, this number, this number. How many different combinations of those numbers can there be? And then it like runs a little thing and gives me an answer. It's like, okay, that's how many things I need. Like that's what I did with my um
Mhm.
no, I actually found a website that did that. It was like I had to, for the stats for the weapons, I had to calculate permutations of them so that it's balanced, but they're all. It's a long story. I won't bore you with that. But the one thing I did use ChatGPT for was I got stuck with rhyming. I wrote some riddles for a dungeon in the game. You have to guess which item is the key to unlock the door to get to the next room in the dungeon. Um, and I was really struggling to find riddles that could be used to describe these different items. So I asked ChatGPT, I was like, these are the items. Can you write like 2 sentence rhyming riddles to describe these things? Um, and it spat out a whole bunch of stuff. I must have done it 6 or 7 times, and none of the times found what I wanted. It didn't give me anything, but it did give me the inspiration to actually write my own. So in that sense, I feel like ChatGPT and other AI tools are useful, almost like a prototyping scenario, or for in the case of like image generation, things like Mid Journey and all that stuff. Using that for like references for art. So if you're looking for a particular thing and you need a reference to draw, um, plugging it into like putting in a prompt, getting a image generator to give you a random image, and then making the art yourself based on that image. I think that's a better use of AI. That being said, AI is doing all that scraping and learning from people's art and all that stuff, and I
Mhm.
don't feel that there should be any of that at all. I don't think technology has that technology. I don't think that has any place in art. Art is a very human thing. It's just like we've it's how our souls come out and we share them with the rest of the world. Um, so on one hand, very useful.
No.
On the other hand, get it the
Mhm.
fuck out of here. I don't want any part of that, you know?
No, yeah, definitely. I get what you're saying as far as it's a good tool to brainstorm with and to, like you said, use as references, and that's it. A tool, not necessarily base your
Mhm.
whole work or
Yeah.
build your whole game with
Yeah.
it or do everything because it has no soul. It's not the or it's stealing someone else's soul
Yeah,
or art.
exactly.
You
It's
know,
like
definitely.
regurgitating just stuff that it's pieced together. Granted, there are some pretty cool
Hmm.
stuff that there's some pretty cool stuff that people have done with AI. Like I'll give it to them. People make some pretty cool stuff. But it's just not something about it, you know?
Yeah.
And like hearing about
Uh huh.
like people are losing their jobs, people are being replaced by AI, things like that. Like that's just wrong. Especially in this world where it's hard
Hmm.
enough to get by with the jobs that we have, to just lose those jobs because a computer can do it faster and easier and cheaper and all of that stuff, like, that's just the worst part of capital. I'm really down on capitalism lately, I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of writing, and, that's a
No.
recurring theme in the game, so it's just in the forefront of my mind, this whole, like, inflation and all that garbage is just so, the fact that AI is just adding insult to injury, with, the mismanagement of our economy and things like that. It sucks.
Yeah, it's a nice recipe for, shitty shitty
Yeah.
things.
Yep.
Uh, what do you think if you had to name just name one thing is the hardest part of actually creating and developing your game? Like, what has been, like, the hardest part?
Marketing. 100% marketing, because it's
Mm,
constantly changing. It's like people's interests are so varied, and their attention spans are so difficult to grasp, because it's like the next video is just one swipe away, and then you've got something else to take up all your focus. So it's like being able to create something that grabs people's attention and holds it and gets them to click on that wish list button. By the way, wish list the Edge of Allegoria on Steam. Um, it's like the marketing side of things is just like keeping up with it, and there's trends, and trying not to say anything stupid, which I have a bad habit of doing all the time. So it's like that sort of thing has been something that I've struggled with the entire time. Like, having any sort of reach is nearly impossible. Again, just going back to the whole capitalism thing. It's pay to play, pay to win.
hey,
If you wanna get seen, you
uh-huh.
gotta buy those ads, and you gotta, pay to get boosted, and, you gotta pay somebody to write an article or do something like that. Thankfully, there's people like you who invite indie devs like me onto their show, and they can talk we can talk about my game and things like that, and, um
Oh, definitely.
but then there's 90% of the time you gotta pay that 70 to $7 for a blue check mark so that your tweets get seen.
Mhm. No, I know it. And like you said, it all comes back to capitalism, but what can we do? This is
Yeah.
the
We can
universe we
we
got
can make a
picked in,
game
the
about it.
reality.
We can make a video game about it and complain about it there. Influence the next generation. That's
That'll teach them. Uh-huh. Push those ideas.
Yeah,
Um,
super effective. It's really
any
working.
advice any advice you can give to aspiring game developers or anyone wanting to create a project and get it, like, crowdfunded successfully? Is there anything you wish you knew before doing the crowdfunding? The advice?
Um, I wish I prepared more, for the Kickstarter, and I wish I set my expectations, I think I had pretty reasonable expectations, but I think I should've I definitely should've prepared to have more stuff as I went kind of through the campaign, having more social media posts prepared, reaching out. Like, I didn't reach out to any online publications or anything like that to try and get an article written about it, or any of that. Um, is definitely like, for in terms of the Kickstarter, it definitely, like, preparation would have been. I mean, I still took a long time to prepare. I spent a lot of time on the page. I spent a lot of time making all the assets, but it was just getting the word out that I think, again, it's a marketing thing that I struggle with. Um, Having
Mhm,
that would definitely would have made it a lot easier. Like, having more of a reach would have been better. Excuse me. But the oh, I had it. Give me a second. It'll come back to me.
mhm.
Um,
No
yes.
worries.
It was okay, so because I didn't have a job, because it was like that was it. Um, the Kickstarter was my last kind of, this is it. Like, my savings were running out. I I needed it, or else I was gonna have to go and find a full-time job and put the game on the back burner. It would get released eventually, but it would take a lot longer to release. Um, and, um,
Mhm,
having a job and having a steady income, and not having to worry so much about whether or not it succeeds is way more valuable than having the reach and all that stuff. Not caring about the outcome is the best way to get through to it because I was so stressed out. Like I feel like I was going bald or I've grown at least a few gray hairs over the course of February while that was happening because it was like it was a make or break situation. So if I didn't have funding, it was scramble and take the first
Hmm.
job I could find to be able to keep the lights on kind of thing. Um, but thankfully, it came through. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that do try to run a Kickstarter and it isn't successful. And I was very nearly in that demographic.
Hmm.
Um, so, and I think like if I still had my day job at the time, or if I had something lined up at least, then it put a lot of stress and anxiety on myself not having a backup, and it was like I couldn't I there was no option. I couldn't fail. I couldn't allow myself to fail, but I very nearly did, and that like if I didn't have to worry about that, I would have come out of the Kickstarter a lot more sane, a lot more a lot more stable. Um, it definitely like if you do go in and you have everything to lose, it's gonna feel so good when you hit the goal. It's gonna be like 10 times better than if, you didn't care. But the turmoil that you put yourself through watching those numbers as they go every day is I don't think it's worth it. Like, yeah.
Hmm. Well, no, you were literally, it was literally like all or nothing, right? Like as far as
Oh, that yeah,
with
Kickstarter
the
Kickstarter,
Kickstarter.
that's their whole model is just like if you don't reach your goal, you don't get anything. I know there's other crowdfunding campaigns. That's another thing too
Yeah.
is to consider, other crowdfunding options. Kickstarter is just the most recognizable, the most popular at least that I'm aware of.
Hmm.
Um, but I know that there are other platforms that don't do the all or nothing approach. So that's also an option as well, is to
Hmm.
get what you can get. Also, if you have like regular content, I'd recommend like Patreon or Ko-fi or any of those kind of like crowd crowdfunding type things, where people can
Support,
support you,
community support. Yeah.
yeah, on a regular basis. That's a great option as well.
No, definitely. And finally, before I let you go, any juicy teases you can let us in on for the Edge of Allegoria?
Mm. I wish. I have something. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I really, really like. Oh, I actually had some emails going back and forth today, and I can't. I'm so sorry. It will happen very,
Oh, no
very
worries.
soon, depending on when this airs for everyone. It may have already happened, so go check out It's Average Joe on any social media and double check that it hasn't actually happened already. And if it hasn't, stay tuned because there's something imminently going to be announced. I can't quite yet, and I
That
really want to so badly because I'm so excited.
that's that's good enough for me. I that's how announcements are now. You get announcements for announcements, and I think
Yeah.
that's just as juicy.
Yeah, stay tuned for an announcement. It's coming
Yeah.
soon.
I love it. Well, no, thank you so much, Joe, for your time. I appreciate it very
Thank you,
much.
man. This has been a lot of
I think
fun.
I have all your info there.
Hell yeah.
No, definitely. I think I have all your info there at the bottom where everyone can find you. And yeah, everyone just play the Edge of Allegoria. It's on Steam, the demo at least, and wishlist it, and it'll be coming very soon. I want to thank you for your time, sir, and hope all success for you and continue. And we'll see you all later. Take care.
Peace.